Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. You just watched a montage of footage from the two most popular action cameras on the market at the moment, and those are the GoPro Hero 12 and the DJI Osmo Action 4. And I hid their identities from you. I think it's important that you guys get kind of a snap decision, unbiased, which one you like better before I put the names on each of them. Time for the big reveal. Boom. So, did you get it right? Many of you know I'm a long-time GoPro user, but a couple of months ago I actually made the switch over to the DJI Osmo Action 4. Kind of did it low-key. I wanted to introduce it on the sly and just kind of get a bunch of testing with this camera before I actually made a video like this. And even without me saying anything, a ton of you guys noticed an increase in quality on the channel, and I've been getting bombarded with comments asking me about what camera I'm using and what setup I'm using, and that is music to my ears, not gonna lie, because my aim is to give you guys the best footage and most immersive experience as possible. And in my last video, I broke down the DJI Osmo Action 4, kind of showed off the camera, did a little bit of a review to show you guys why I made the switch, but a bunch of you are asking me to make a video directly comparing footage of these two cameras side by side. And so, quite literally, that's what I did. I could sit here, just like every other tech review YouTube channel, and read some numbers off of a spec sheet and tell you guys theoretically which camera should look better. That's their deal, that's their specialty. They could do a way better job of that than I could ever dream of doing. But what I do better and what my specialty is taking these cameras out into the real world and showing you guys how truly amazing these little cameras are. And although I have this beautiful studio set up, we're not gonna spend a whole lot of time sitting here. I wanna show you guys tons of footage. And so I quite literally put both of these cameras side by side on my helmet and I hit the track and sort of identified a few key areas where I feel like action cameras should excel. And I put these things head to head against one another, and you guys can be the judge of which one you think looks the best. So without further ado, let's head to the track. All right, so for test number one, we have these things set up completely automatic. Both of them are set to their highest frame rate. So for the GoPro, that is 5.3K. For the DJI, 4K. Whenever I'm showing footage out of the Hero 12, I'll put a little icon up in this corner. And then whenever I'm showing you guys footage from the DJI Osmo Action 4, I'll put the DJI logo up in this corner. I don't usually run them in fully auto settings, but that's probably how a lot of you guys are gonna be running these cameras. So I figured I'd show you what that looked like before I go through, mess with the settings, and run them exactly how I would do it. You can hear what the bike sounds like. You can hear what the bike sounds like. So that's what both of these cameras look like directly out of the box, stock everything. That's probably how a lot of you guys are gonna run this, so I did want to show you what that's going to look like. However, over the last 5 years of filming POV content, I have learned some settings that I like to apply to my cameras And so from here on out, they're gonna be using my settings. And those include running an ND filter so that I can lock the shutter and get a nice little bit of motion blur, just to make things look a little more fast and cinematic. Running a foam wind cover over these and then turning the wind reduction setting off so that you're getting nice crisp audio without the wind noise. They'll both be set to their log color profile, which flattens everything out and retains a bunch of color so that I can go in post and edit the colors and make everything look really nice. And then finally locking in the white balance, and that's just so that it's not trying to adjust while I'm out on the track. I just like to lock it in so that it's consistent. So let's take a look at what these things look like when they are maxed out to their full potential. Yeah, that definitely looks and sounds quite a lot better than the standard settings. Putting both cameras on the helmet was a little too heavy, so I did have to go out in separate sessions, which is why the image is not meeting up perfectly. But speaking of image, like I mentioned before, the GoPro does have a little bit higher resolution. It goes all the way up to 5.3K, whereas the DJI only goes up to 4K. That is quite a big difference, but the majority of people watch these videos either on a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop where the screen is, 15 inches or smaller. Some of those devices don't even have the ability to display 4K. So for the vast majority of viewers, they're not going to be able to tell the difference. I could probably upload in 1080p, and most people wouldn't really be able to tell the difference of what's 4K, what's 1080, or what's 5.3K. The people who are going to be able to tell a difference are the guys who are sitting on their couch and they have these videos blown up on their 70-inch flat screen TV. And if you go pixel hunting, you zoom way in on both of these images, you can see that the GoPro does have a little bit better quality when you are like super insanely zoomed in. So on paper, GoPro does win in the resolution and quality category. However, it's not going to matter for most people. What I think is more important is just the entire overall vibe, like how all the pieces of the puzzle come together to create the image that you're looking at. And a big part of that comes down to the field of view, which is how wide the lens is. And especially for motocross, you want as wide of a field of view as possible because the camera is very close to the action. It's probably a foot sometimes from the handlebars. Sometimes I even hit the handlebars with the camera. And so if you have a tight field of view, you're missing a lot of the action with the handlebars and the gas tank and the front wheel. And the DJI does have a wider field of view than the GoPro. The GoPro is claimed to be a 151 degree field of view. The DJI is a claimed 155. So 4 degrees difference. It does seem like more than that when you're actually on the track though. I feel like you can see a lot more of the handlebars and a little bit more of the action on the DJI. The wider the field of view, the faster objects are going to pass by the edges of the camera as well. So the trees and the dirt and the riders that are beside you are going to shoot by the camera faster and make it look like you're going faster. It's also going to create more motion blur out there when you're using the ND filter. So overall, the wider field of view just creates a better viewing experience, in my opinion. You can definitely run into trouble with a wide field of view because you start to get that fisheye effect where at the edges of the camera, it gets like very warped. You can see I'm noticing it in this clip where the edge of the van is like really curved on the GoPro, and it's a lot less curved on the DJI, which is even more impressive because the DJI has a wider field of view, but it still doesn't distort as badly on the corners. This is with the GoPro set in the super view mode. There is a hyper view mode, which is an even wider field of view, but the warping is absolutely insane when you put this thing in hyperview. It almost makes you dizzy to watch, and I refuse to use the hyperview. Comparing the audio between the two, the DJI is a little bit louder and more crisp. The GoPro kind of has a little bit more of a muffled and like bassy sound to it. So different taste for different people. I think the DJI does have a lot more clarity when you're not completely wide open. but it does tend to blow out a little bit when you're absolutely wide open on the rev limiter. I would have to imagine that if you were on a 250F where, you know, you're bouncing off the rev limiter super loud, you might run into some issues where you have to bring the audio levels down a little bit. The GoPro definitely does not blow out at all, and you can always bring the audio levels up in post-production on the GoPro to try and match the DJI, but I think out of the box the DJI does sound a little bit better. And then finally, stabilization, another staple of the action cameras. Stabilization has gotten incredibly good. Like during broad daylight and auto settings, you're not going to have any issues with stabilization on either of these cameras. However, action cameras are famously bad in low light situations. The digital stabilization works by using a very high shutter speed to get super high quality and definition in each frame. And then it takes pixels and objects from each frame and tries to match them up to keep that object still from frame to frame. When you get into low light situations, the shutter speed lowers to try and let more light in. That creates motion blur. It makes the pixels a little bit more blurry, and that makes it harder for the camera to line the pixels up from frame to frame. It's obviously bright out in this video, but I am running ND filters, which are essentially sunglasses, which essentially mimics a low light situation. That's how I lock the shutter speed lower and get this motion blur. What's nice about the DJI is it has quite a bit larger sensor than the GoPro, which means it lets more light in naturally and performs better in those low light situations. So you can see in some situations, like going through the rollers on the GoPro with the ND filter, you get a little bit of that jitter on the hard hits. You almost never get that on the DJI. So it allows me to run the ND filters in a broader range of conditions, and especially if you're doing trail riding where you're in the woods or maybe you're riding at dusk or something, that bigger sensor is going to help you a lot there. But at the end of the day, both of these cameras are amazing. You really can't go wrong. There's just a little bit of personal preference that goes into it, and you just kind of have to decide which one you like the look of better. For me, I like the realism of the DJI and the wider field of view. Those two things do it for me. It's not a total killer for the GoPro. If you only ever saw GoPro footage, like, you probably would never even really know, but now that I've been using the DJI for a little while and I see that nice wide field of view and you get that realism effect, now when I go back to using the GoPro, that's when I notice just how kind of tight and cramped everything starts to feel. So there we go, guys. There's the comparison of the GoPro Hero 12 and the DJI Osmo Action 4 for motocross. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really feel like DJI stepped up the action camera world. It's really good to see. I think we're gonna obviously see a response from GoPro and Insta360 because of it. And as a consumer, that is just good for all of us. If you have any more questions, please drop them in the comments below. I'm always going through the comments and answering the questions that you guys have. And also let me know what you guys think of the new studio. It's not quite done yet, but I worked really hard on it this week. I really wanna make a ton more tech videos and review type videos for you guys. So over here we got all the dirt bike parts. This is gonna be like camera gear and tech equipment. So yeah, let me know what you think. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this comparison review video. Out there and shred your dirt bikes, all right? We'll catch you in the next one. Peace out, guys.